Okay, here's a demonstration of a gentleman who's pushing from his left to his right. The right side is his involved side. I'm going to passively correct his position, trying to get him back to vertical midline. And as I do, he resists that passive correction. He gets a balance reaction, and he's actually coming into a flexor withdrawal. As you see his right foot and his right arm coming up into standing. Into flexion.
You shift to the left.
This is a pretty hallmark example, them resisting your passive correction back to vertical midline. In the next video you'll see from a front view. So now you can see I'm standing on his uninvolved side and I'm trying to get him to actively correct. And then what I'm going to do is add that passive correction so you can see what happens. He can actively correct a little bit, but then when I pull him any further, up comes that right side. And that can be problematic. You got to be really careful with this.
You come over here. You do.
Because you may not be able to sit back down. That foot may adduct across or sort of scissor across and could be a problem. So be careful. But this is a little test I do. I have people stand up and then I pull them towards me just to see what they do.
Perfect.
Here's another guy who, this side it's the opposite. His uninvolved is his right side. And you can see how he hangs out way over there. This guy is way bigger than me, so I'm being really careful. I have things set up.
I'm going to give you just a little nudge here. Towards your right. You filming yourself?
Mm-hmm. And you'll see what we do through passive correction and all that. He's really posting up on that right side.
I feel like I'm really... You feel me pushing you from the left side?
No, but
he's not really pushing towards me.
Getting pushed that way.
Yeah, exactly. But all you feel is on the right
I gotta
side.
block his knee.
Okay, go ahead and have a seat.
He's not totally pushing towards me.
Go ahead and have a seat.
Check this out. I'm gonna take the support away. Maybe not the best idea, but let's see what happens here.
You're going to stand up again, but I'm going to be on this side.
So he didn't know, he didn't see it
Try to maintain this.
actively being 18 degrees off, but you'll see in a second what happens when I bring him past where he's comfortable. Now you can see it. As he's coming to sit to stand, he's drifting away from me, so he's actually pushing away from me. I just can't. I don't think I'm going to be able to do this. So I said, no, I'm going to switch what we're doing here. So we're going to use the support of the chair. And he comes back up, but he's still pushing away from me. So watch what happens when I start to bring him back towards me, when I passively correct him.
Left heel.
Turn out towards the window. Yeah, right there. Perfect. Okay, stand tall. Okay. What I'm going to do...
And so the top of my head comes to like his shoulder. He's a pretty tall guy. Now I take away his support, and I'm on him being the support. And now I'm saying, hey, let's go a little further past midline. He's like, I don't think so. Here comes the left leg coming up in reflection. He's getting a balance reaction there, and he's maybe at midline.
You shift to me. Shift to you. Do it. Yeah, good. And come back.
Now, worst case scenario here, he sits back down. I've got enough control where I can just have him right back on that mat.
Good. Stop.
But you can see I can't get him past midline over his right leg. So start to think about what that would do to somebody's walking pattern, which you're going to see in the next video clip.
All right, now check it out. As you shift here, right? If I pull you,
I've got a mirror in front of him. Actually, you can't see it, but there's a table in front of this mirror, and the camera I think is on the table.
and you shift.
Yeah, now you can see the table. So he's using vertical references to help induce midline.
I got you.
Okay, so here he is walking, the same gentleman. And remember, he doesn't want to get over his right leg. At least in standing, he did.
Yourself out. You see how you're going towards the wall? You see that?
So what you'll see with these people is they will literally walk towards the left. So I'm going to give him a visual reference of that red line that you see on the right side there, and I'm going to tell him to stay parallel to it. Since his body doesn't want to shift over on that right leg, he drifts left. Everything's going left. I've got a chair, somebody following me with a chair really close to me here, because this is a pretty scary thing to do. It takes a lot of control on all these parts.
Good. Stop there for a second. Now I need you to weight shift your hip towards that 1 o'clock position. You do it now. There. Now step.
So what I'm having him do is
Good.
shift his right hip towards his right hand or his thumb.
Got the sequence?
So he's got a kind of a visual and tactile reminder of what direction to shift, which would be forward and to the right.
Get that weight shift over that right foot. There you go. Now step.
And you notice you end up with a bilateral problem here. He's weak on the left, but he sure is having trouble on his right.
Weight shift. Can you get this from the front?
Yeah.
Your weight shift right now has to be.
Okay, again, I'm going to give him that tactile cue. Shift into my hand, which is in that diagonal direction. The vector is diagonal towards his thumb.
You have to shift your weight. Keep coming. You do it now. There.
So if I can get him to push into me,
Come back onto your left.
it's going to be much more tolerated because he's generating the force. If I pull him over,
There.
he might not know where that force is coming from. So he's going to resist me.
I'll pull you.
He'll go back. He'll go posterior and to his left. So give him a tactile cue, something to push into, to have him generate that weight shift rather than me pulling him over. And be careful with the gate belt. If I pull on that gate belt where my hand is right now, he's going to feel it in the left posterior. It's going to be like I'm pulling him over there. So be careful where your forces are and how they go. So you see clearance of the left foot is going to be really difficult
Okay. If we could bring the chair.
because we can't get his weight off of it. So the challenge with gait is obviously safety, but having him generate the weight shift and not overhandling such that you're pulling him into, like passively correcting by pulling him into the area that his body just doesn't recognize as a viable option.